Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome to an $800 gaming PC build. Now, this is an Intel gaming PC build, which a lot of people have been asking me to do more of. They want to use Intel CPUs, which here's another one. This is a really good mid of the line build. So this is going to be really good to play games at 1080p at high frame rates and high settings. So really good. This isn't going to play games at extremely high resolutions like 2560 by 1440. But if you want something that's great for the money and has a lot of good value, then this is what you want to get. To start things off with the CPU, I went with the Intel Core i5-4670K. It's a Haswell CPU at 3.4 GHz, but that 3.4 GHz doesn't really mean much since it's a K-series CPU, and if you get a K-series CPU, chances are you're going to be doing some heavy overclocking, especially if you have a good fan, which I went with in this build. It's an LGA 1150 board, uses 84 watts, quad-core CPU, no hyper-threading, also has Intel integrated HD graphics. Now, the Intel integrated HD graphics aren't the best thing in the world, but if your graphics card does crap out, it is something good to have as a backup, especially because the new Intel HD graphics actually can run like less intensive games like World of Warcraft and League of Legends at decent settings and decent frame rates. Again, it's not meant to be a full-on replacement to your graphics card. Now, this is a really good CPU for gaming because most games only use 4 cores, and this is a quad-core CPU, and it's a very fast quad-core CPU at 3.4 GHz, but overclocking it to say 4.0 GHz or 4.2 GHz is going to make it extremely fast and extremely well with games, especially if you have a decent graphics card. Now for the CPU cooler that I mentioned before, I went with the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo. This is a really solid CPU cooler. I actually used it in my build, and it's really cheap. It's only like 25 bucks after a mail-in rebate, and it can really do some good overclocking. It's not too loud, and it's just really, really good for the money, especially for how cheap it is. It's really good for the budget and value-concerned gamer because it's a cheap CPU cooler. It's not going to put a huge dent into your budget, but it's also really, really good for high overclocking because I have an i5-3570K, and yes, that does overclock better than the 4670K, but I got that up to 4.2 GHz no problem, and I could probably get it up higher, I just don't really need to. For the motherboard, I went with the MSI Z87-G41. This is a really solid motherboard for about 99 bucks, has 4 RAM slots, so some extra RAM if you want to get it down the line. But this is a really good motherboard. It's from MSI, and a lot of people love MSI, so I went with MSI over Asus in this build. But yeah, Z87, really solid motherboard, has a lot of good upgradability options with you can SLI or Crossfire in this build, and supports up to 2667 RAM, so that's pretty good if you do want to overclock RAM. I'm not really into that, but if you are into it, you can do that. Now for $99, this was an obvious choice in the build because it has a lot of good upgradability options. You can overclock on the board, and it's just a really solid board for the money, and you know, for 800 bucks in the budget, using only an eighth of our budget on the motherboard seems pretty logical. For the RAM, I went with G-Skull Ripjaws X series. It's 8GB, 2 4GB sticks, running at 1866 speed. Now, this is about 79 bucks. Yes, more on the pricey side, but 8GB is a lot of RAM even to this day. I mean, 8GB has been cheap for a long time, but 8GB really isn't a necessity. But for how cheap it is, you know, it has been going up in price, unfortunately, because over like a year ago, you could get 8 gigs of RAM for like 45 bucks. Now it's $79 because RAM is being utilized more in, like, you know, mobile devices and whatnot. So prices of RAM are going up, unfortunately, but still, it's not anything too bad. And for 79 bucks for 8 GB of RAM, that's really solid. And 16 GB really is pointless in a build like this, especially when your budget concerned at an $800 price range. 8 GB is going to be perfectly fine for the build. Now for the power supply, I went with the Corsair Builder Series CX600. It's 600 watt power supply, 80 plus bronze certified. Now, this is normally $70. Actually, it's normally $80. And what Newegg's doing right now, there's a $10 off instant, like it's just $10 off. Then there's a $10 off promo code. Then there's a $20 off mail-in rebate. So, like I said, go out, if you guys shop on Newegg, look around for power supplies because you can find some really good promo codes that Newegg doesn't even advertise at all. I shop around for these, and you can find some damn good deals. Like, sometimes the CX430 is like 20 bucks. That's a great deal for an 80 plus 430 watt power supply. But back to this power supply, this is gonna power the build no problem. Unfortunately, you're not gonna be able to SLI or Crossfire with this power supply. So if you do want to do that down the line, I recommend like a TX850 or an HX750, something like that. That's gonna do you well if you do want to SLI or Crossfire, but I'm really not into that. What I recommend is just sell the graphics card you have and then buy something to the performance that you are expecting. For the graphics card, I went with the EVGA GeForce GTX 760. Now this is a really solid graphics card. It competes with the 7950, but I went with the 760 over the 7950 for one reason mainly. It's that the 7950 on Newegg at least doesn't support the free games anymore, and most places people are telling me that it's done. Those free games like Crysis 3, Tomb Raider, and Bioshock Infinite, that's done. A lot of people are telling me that, so I'm gonna stop going with the 7950, and I went with the 760 because it's, you know, if you overclock the 7950, it does perform better than the 760 overclocked, but the thing with the 760 is you get a free copy of Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Blacklist. Now that's a game not even out yet. It's gonna retail for 50 bucks, so if you don't even want the game, you can probably sell it for 30 or 40 bucks and get a decent chunk off the graphics card, so that's gonna, you know, theoretically make the graphics card 210 bucks. And this card is really solid for 1080p gaming. It performs similarly to the 660 Ti, a little bit faster, but it's a lot cheaper, and you get Splinter Cell Blacklist for free, so why the hell not? For the hard drive, I went with Western Digital WD Blue 1TB hard drive. No SSD in this build. You guys know what I always say, and I hate reiterating this, but if you have a hard drive from a previous build, you can either skip this part entirely or get a 60GB SSD. Just gonna say that. Moving on to the case. For the case, I went with the Cooler Master Half 912. It's a mid-tower case for 60 bucks. Actually, there's a $10 mail-in rebate as well, so it's 50 bucks. I use this case, and it works really well for me. A lot of good ventilation, a lot of good features, and a lot of room, you know, for upgradability options. So, yeah, thanks for watching this video, guys. Remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel, comment, and I will catch you guys later. And tell me if you guys like these builds, and give me a like if you do. And I will catch you guys later. Peace.